Hey guys, so as promised, I did a Q&A on my Instastory where I said if you have any questions about pregnancy or postpartum based on my experience alone, I would, be more than happy to put together a quick Q&A so that I could answer those questions. So I printed them out and I'm just gonna go straight through them and answer the questions as best I can. So sit tight, let's get started. First question, excuse me. Most surprising thing about being a new mom. I think the most surprising thing about being a new mom is you immediately I think you do it somewhat when you're pregnant, but you immediately shift over to completely being consumed by your baby. Every little noise, sound, I guess I can't say it's the most surprising thing, right? Because you do think that that's going to be the case, but it's like this natural intuitive thing where you just are locked in on that kid and you're like, I will give you the world, whatever you need, I am here to protect you. So that was really beautiful. I think that was really, really special. On kind of a trickier side, I'd say that breastfeeding is kind of a beast. So I didn't expect that it would be as fun as it's been. And it hurts. And that first week, your nipples are screaming, it just is wild. And I feel like I was not adequately prepared for that. Am I getting enough rest? Absolutely not. That's why my voice is hoarse and I'm always fighting off a little cold basically since our first week home. But it's a really great reason to not be getting rest because we're so happy to have her here. Next question, did the fibroid you developed during pregnancy cause any complications during labor? I actually had a planned C-section primarily because of the fibroid. The other part was because of my placenta previa. I spoke about that in the other videos. So I think the complication is that I couldn't do a vaginal delivery because they were concerned about the location of it and if it would make it difficult for our sweet little baby to get through. Best advice I received. I think the best advice that I received was probably, I don't know, actually. I feel like I got a lot of really good advice. I think the heads up about the heartburn was really helpful. I think that I had a lot of really great recommendations. I'll answer the question this way. If there's something that's going on with your pregnancy, reach out to everybody that you know who's been pregnant and ask them if they've experienced it. So what I'd actually say is that for some reason I can't pinpoint the best advice I've received, but I can't stress enough, reach out to friends and family because there's a strong chance that if you're going through something or experiencing something, either they've gone through it or they know somebody who's gone through it. And the best advice that I personally can give is be your biggest advocate. If there's something that's going on, if your body's acting weird, if anything is happening, do not hesitate to blow up the doctor's phone, send the emails in the message portal if they have it. You have to root for you. Nobody's gonna cut for you as hard as you're gonna cut for yourself. So I can't stress that enough. Be your biggest cheerleader. C-section recovery tips. So I think it's been a huge blessing. My C-section recovery has been really quick. After a week, I was kind of up and back at it. What I can say is you're on a really strong medication. So listen to your body. If you don't have to re-up on the meds, I would say don't. Really good advice that I got from my friend Keisha actually was you want to be able to kind of feel, even though it's uncomfortable, you want to be able to feel a little bit because you don't want to push your body so hard that your perception is skewed by the painkillers and you're actually being too hard on your body and it's making it harder for you to heal. So I definitely would say in terms of your C-section, make sure that you are pacing yourself. I know that there have been a few times where it's I have felt it physically because I was either cleaning up or just doing too many projects or things around the house. And physically I would feel it and I'd be I went too hard today, I should have been better. Let's see, what else? So I will say that I was probably most worried about the baby the first time I spotted, which was in my first trimester. And it sucked because it happened on a Friday night. Like, it was like basically too late to go to the doctor, or else I would have had to go to the ER. So I had to wait until like Monday or something like that to get the appointment. And that was the longest weekend ever, you guys. So I'm really big on prayer, meditation, affirmations, obviously. Like, we literally just spent the next 3 days like praying our way through it, trusting that God was gonna make it okay. And it was really comforting. The reason why I like affirmations so much is because it's like, it's not that your mind is perfectly like an on and off switch. It's that when you start having those thoughts and you feel overwhelmed, it's just really, really important to fill it with so many good things that they are literally replacing every bad thing, until you're able to actually believe it. And even if that means that like literally up until you get to the doctor, you're still doing them, just that cycle can be really helpful. When it came to unsolicited advice, I will say that I think one of the things about being pregnant in a pandemic, or just being kind of quarantined, is I wasn't having like the engagement that I think you sometimes have, like in a normal pregnancy where you would be in social settings and like seeing all these different people. So I didn't get a whole lot of unsolicited advice. I think people know me fairly well also, and they know that like I will ask if I have a question. So if I'm not asking, you know, please like proceed with caution about throwing stuff my way, because, you know, it's just not really for me. What I can say is like there are some conversations that are hard to have. It's kind of the same vein, just a different side. And I think you have to advocate for yourself. I think it's really important for you to speak up, set boundaries, be willing to have difficult conversations, whether it's with you and a family member or your spouse or whoever. Like, just know as best you can what your needs are going to be, and be as intentional as you can, you know, without hopefully rocking the boat, about communicating it and articulating it in a way that hopefully is well received. And if it isn't, double down, but have clarity and be focused on what's best for you. Somebody said, Andrea, I think the birth process is always glossed over. I want to know the good, bad, and ugly. I touched on this in the postpartum video. The epidural was actually, like, for some reason, that's just like the lasting memory for me about the delivery. I also had a C-section. It was insanely fast. Like, she was delivered in like less than 5 minutes, because they were actually kind of worried about her. So it was a really, really fast process. They went in, took her out, and then started sewing me up. I got really, really nauseous from the anesthesia. I was like, I just have never even felt nausea like that before. So that like was terrible. I think it's just like, it's a very like, the recovery part of it is just really gross. I don't have another way to say it. It's like, I had this huge incision. It's bloody. I don't know. I'm trying to find a cute way to say it. I had all these little like tape strips on it, and like if I laughed too hard, if I did anything, like it not only would it kind of hurt, but it would actually like bleed a bit. It was really gross, you guys. And then like my legs and my feet, like everything like swelled up like super, super, super big. I did not see that coming. And then like you're bleeding and you have to wear these like mesh underwear. Like it just feels so like foreign, everything. And another thing that I didn't mention in the other videos, but for some reason like my like nasal passages like got messed up. Like I don't know if it was from the anesthesia or from the medicines I was on or what, but I couldn't smell her, and I didn't even know that I couldn't smell her until I got home. My little sister was just like, oh, don't you love that newborn smell? And I was like, I don't smell it. And I was like, I can't believe I've been missing out on like the best, you know, baby smell ever. So yeah, that was really weird. And then there was also one other thing. A side effect of the anesthesia also is that I would like itch all over. Like for 2 days, I was just like, my whole body was like itchy. So that was like really weird. I don't know. It's like very beautiful, but like you immediately get thrown into like the lack of sleep, with just like, you know, trying to get the baby. And then also I touched on this before, but like when you're trying to like latch, like if your nipple isn't shaped exactly how the baby needs it, the baby will like suck on it to get it like how it needs it. And that like blew my mind. It was crazy painful. So the doctors gave me something that was like a steroid to put like on my nipples to help me transition. But you guys, that first week, 2 weeks of breastfeeding, the latching, even now it's still a little uncomfortable, but like I like at first it was fine. And then by like the end of the night, I was like, oh my God, I was like, is it gonna hurt like this every time? Oof, it was a lot. Baby must-haves. I might have to just do another post for that altogether. One, because I'm still kind of figuring it out, and two, because the video would be super long. I'll give you a couple of things. I think it's really important to have a swaddle. In theory, I don't like the idea of swaddling, but one of my girlfriends, she was like, Chelsea, at Literature Registry, I saw that you didn't have a swaddle. I'm sending you a pack of swaddles. She was like, I know, I get it. I had the same reservation. She was like, but like that night, me and my husband were like, we have to get swaddles, and we like ran out and got them. So it was really sweet for her to send that to me, because for one reason or another, if you want your baby to sleep through the night and they're not sleeping through the night, the swaddle just starts you off on better footing. So that's like the top of my must-have list. I also have this little like baby bag thing. It's like a little like teeny tiny like thin knit like sleeping bag type thing, and I put her in it because it helps me like lock her in, and then I swaddle her so I'm not like fighting like her little arms and everything. That's been really great. I got that later. I wish I'd had it from the beginning. Something that I learned from the C-section is that it happens really fast. I thought that when they said it was going to be an hour, I thought it was going to be like an hour, like for them to get her out. Like the doctor said it was like 2 minutes or something like that. And I'm sorry for women who have had like crazy labor and 2 days that nothing's happening. Like C-sections are in and out. It's wild. Like I couldn't believe it. My husband and I were like, what? The planning of the C-section, I talk about this in the previous video as well. I felt like I got the wind knocked out of me because we found out like literally a month out to the day, it was the day before our wedding anniversary, that the C-section was gonna have to be almost a month earlier than the delivery. And that was so hard for me, y'all. Like I had a melty. I was not excited about that, but we had to, do what was best for the baby. And I was like, I want to know my rights, and I want to, I like went into like sister soldier mode, and I started researching it, and everything that my doctor was saying, and my doctor was wonderful, was spot on with what I was seeing online. And it was just so sobering to realize that like you can plan and you can think that you can do all these different things. And I'll be completely honest with you, I was freaking out, like literally there was never a point where I wasn't freaking out, but the night before and the like time leading up to like the actual procedure, like I never had this like moment of like serenity or like calm. Like, I trusted that God was gonna work it out and that it was gonna be fine, but like I'd never had a major surgery, I've never been pregnant, I've never had a baby. So it was just a lot of firsts for me. And you just have, in the past, I just heard so many stories, and I felt so incredibly vulnerable. So thank God for faith, because I definitely had to tap into just being like, Lord, please, like, let this go well. But yeah, the planning part actually is kind of a sticky part of my pregnancy. I was really upset that I found out that we had to do it so much earlier, really late, and I'm still working my way through that. The most surprising thing that I wasn't expecting, I think it's just that, like, kind of going into any situation that everybody's experience is going to be their own. I think that I was just really, really caught off guard by like how different pregnancies can be from person to person, and like even like just like the road to pregnancy. Like you can think that like, all right, if I'm having a C-section, it'll probably look like this, this, and this, and there will be overlap, but you can also just have like vastly different experiences than somebody else who, in theory, you would have thought would have a similar experience to you. So the most surprising thing that I wasn't expecting is just like the hormones change like literally how your body functions. And so a lot of the things that you're used to doing or that you expect to be able to do, you just can't do anymore. And I'm used to powering through it. If I'm tired, power through it. I can sleep tomorrow, I can sleep later. Pregnancy will weigh on your back. If you're not feeling good, like that's that. My Kachucha while pregnant and in recovery. I will say that like, I feel like for the most part, the couple of things were like towards the very end, like your body physically, like everything starts to go lower. I think that was bizarre. Like I didn't see that coming. Couldn't see my girl like really honestly past like 8 months anyway. So without like, you know, kind of looking over with the mirror, like you don't even necessarily know what's down there. And then in recovery, the recovery wasn't so bad. I think it's just like your discharge changes. I mentioned that in the video before. It just, I honestly, it just like wasn't even, she probably didn't even get as much attention as she like would have needed, just because like there were so many other physical things going on. But it wasn't super crazy anything going on with my Kachucha. Sex and pregnancy is really interesting. So I had heard stories and like seen posts about how people just like have amazing pregnancy sex, and like from the time that I got pregnant, I was just like, there is someone else here. I was like, why would we want to do it with her physically in the space with us? And I felt like that when she was this big. So imagine by the time like she was like proper big and like doing backflips and moving and stuff, I was like, there's someone here. So the good thing is like your hormones are all over the place. So you're kind of either tired, like too tired and exhausted to do anything, or like physically like you just can't, or you're like wired up. So the good thing is if you're horny enough, I think you can be like, you know, oh, whatever, and you can have an amazing like sexual set of experiences with, you know, your partner or whatever. But like it's like a psychological thing for me. Like I just had to be like, Charles, like, you know, because the good thing is the doctors, and I don't know if everybody's doctor will tell them this, so I'll share this, like the doctors, God bless you. The doctor was like, you know, think of it this way. She was like, no matter how well endowed your spouse is, she was like, they're not going to be able to like physically harm your child and like hit your child from having sex. So I will say, like, if you're concerned about like whether or not the actual act, and this is obviously there are caveats, like there are certain situations where you're not able to, so know that. But yeah, that was a huge relief that, you know, at least I knew that we wouldn't hurt her. It's just more so that my mind was like, the baby, like she's here. We can't do it with her here. It's just so ironic because like that's how she got here, you know? How am I doing? How am I feeling? How did it feel being a Black woman during COVID who was pregnant? I think that's a great question, primarily because in regular life, I think you're a lot more busy, you have a lot more going on, and you just have all this stuff to distract you. As I mentioned earlier in the video, one of the hardest things for me with getting pregnant was we have just been inundated, and maybe it's just because of the content I follow or whatever, with stories of negative experiences of Black maternal experiences in healthcare. So obviously I went out of my way to find a Black OBGYN. I was like, I want somebody who looks like me. I want somebody who I can have this conversation with in a candid way, and that's who delivered Naomi. But, you know, nonetheless, like the stories are still out there, you know, and I spent a lot of time like trying to tell myself like, it'll be fine. This doesn't have to be my experience, you know, sending love and, you know, praying for families who have had negative experiences. But I do definitely think that race, you can't take away how that affects you being pregnant, if you're even kind of paying attention, just because the stories are out there. So to answer your question, I'm doing great and I'm feeling really good, and I'm super thankful for that. To piggyback on it, I do think that it's really important to have a support system if that's something that you need. I've mentioned it before, but I'll mention it again. Like my mom, my sister are both here. My husband is here too, and it's just been a huge help. Can you guys hear her, I wonder? Having them here, because I think from a mental health standpoint, just having a team of people goes a really long way. Any tips for birth and labor? Like I said, I had a C-section, so I gave that information. Intimacy, I think there's like, I think it's important to want to be like intimate with your partner still, even if you're pregnant. I'm not saying do anything that you're uncomfortable with, or like, you know, if you don't feel good, you don't feel good, and that's fine. But I think that connection, you want to keep that line open so that you guys, I always joke with Warren that like, it's God, then it's us, then it'll be our kids. And you know, I just want to commit to that and keep it there. So we need to stay connected on all fronts. Emotions on pregnancy, postpartum too. I think, honestly, like, I feel like I've just been so tired. And I think that that makes you a little raw, like, because you're kind of functioning on autopilot. Like, I described it as being like, imagine if you just were like in exams for like a month straight. And, you know, we're right at a month, so I don't know what that means. That's what it kind of feels like. So it's not easy, but, you know, the cool thing is, in theory, I think, I don't know, I'm not a super emotional person to begin with, but I'm like really like, what's the best word? Like, I'm kind of cheesy. So it's like, I'm very sentimental. That's the word I'm looking for. Oh, I cannot believe I have not mentioned this. Your brain, pregnancy brain, is such a real thing. And you won't be able to find the words. You can't get them out right. You can't remember what you want to say. Like, it's a mess. So that was like the one thing that I had heard about. So I guess I didn't mention it, but it's like really embarrassing. So just be ready for that, because you're gonna feel like your brain fell out of your head. But yeah, in terms of like your emotions, I will say that like you do feel things, at least for me in my experience, I feel like I feel things a little stronger, but like my physical health, I think, dictated more kind of where I was emotionally. Now, postpartum, I will say that like I'm just not getting a lot of sleep. But praise God, I think like mentally, like I'm pretty sound. Emotionally, I'm fairly sound as well, but like I'm just like kind of short-tempered and a little irritable. And I think that that really has like a lot to do with like, you just don't get enough sleep. And it's a huge responsibility bringing somebody into the world, and you automatically feel like the weight of that. I think that compounded with like breastfeeding has not been the easiest thing. So you're just constantly thinking about like the stuff that like you either want to work on or you want to get right, or, you know, just to make your baby's life as good as you possibly can. And I think that that's an adjustment to maybe just thinking about you or your spouse, or, you know, the regular members of your family. Like, she's ours, we don't give her back, and that's the end of it. So yeah, those are the questions that I received. Thank you so much, you guys, for sending those in. I hope that this has been helpful. I hope the information is useful. And as always, thank you so much for like all the love that we've gotten. I feel like Naomi just has this like wonderful community of people always sending like so much love her way. So we are so thankful for you guys. And feel free to let me know if you have any questions. Take care.